You wake up to a city that sounds different, because the rhythm of life is no longer only footsteps and engines. It is wings, paws, hooves, and scales moving with purpose. The premise lands first. What if humans and animals build a civilization together? Not as pets and owners, not as resources and consumers, but as partners with shared laws, shared work, shared education, and shared power. It begins with the smallest impossible thing becoming normal. A raven delivers a message and waits for a reply, not because it was trained, but because it understands the contract of communication. A dolphin guides a boat through fog and expects payment, not fish tossed like charity, but a signed credit of service recorded in a system that recognizes its agency. A dog refuses an order that violates a rule, because rules are no longer spoken at animals, they are negotiated round them. The world does not change through one miracle, but through a cascade of discoveries that finally remove the wall humans built to separate intelligence from language. Scientists crack cross-species translation using neural pattern mapping, bioacoustic modeling, and a new kind of interface that turns meaning into shared symbols rather than shared words. The first law of the new era becomes blunt. If you can understand a being's preferences, consent, and suffering, you cannot keep pretending it is property. Courts get flooded. Industries panic. People argue like they always do when the moral floor shifts under their feet. But the shift keeps moving anyway. Then the first turn arrives: representation. It is not enough to translate. Someone has to speak in rooms where decisions are made. Council form, not just with humans who advocate, but with animals who participate through interfaces designed for their bodies and senses. Elephants vote with pressure pads and long-range memory tests that prove they grasp consequence. Corvids negotiate over territory and waste management because they already live in human infrastructure and understand it better than we think. Wolves help design border policy because borders in nature are not lines, they are relationships. Bees become legally protected economic actors, and suddenly agriculture treats pollination like a partnership instead of a theft. The world's first joint charter reads like science fiction, but gets enforced like any other law. No forced breeding, no needless confinement, no habitat destruction without negotiation and compensation, no killing without necessity judged by a cross-species court. That is when the second turn hits, sharper than the first. Because cooperation has a price, humanity loses its monopoly. Entire industries collapse overnight. Factory farming becomes illegal, not because humans suddenly became kind, but because cows and pigs and chickens finally have standing, and they do not consent to being processed. Fishing fleets get shut down as marine councils declare the oceans as sovereign commons. For markets vanish. Zoos transform into diplomatic sanctuaries or shut their gates forever. People who build their lives on the old system call it the end of civilization. But it is actually the end of a specific kind of comfort, the comfort of doing violence at a distance. And in the vacuum a new economy forms, one built on interspecies labor that is not slavery because the work is chosen, compensated, and culturally meaningful. Sled dogs become logistics partners in climates machines still struggle with, and they negotiate rest standards. Horses become urban transit collaborators, not pulling carriages for tourists, but shaping the design of streets round their welfare. Rats and pigeons, once treated as pests, become sanitation specialists in exchange for safe corridors and medical care. Octopuses become deep-sea engineers because their bodies outperform robotics in places where pressure eats metal, and they demand protected reefs as wages. Civilization begins to redesign itself around biology rather than forcing biology into human boxes. Another turn arrives from the place humans did not expect: education. Children grow up bilingual in species, learning patience because translation is slow, learning humility because intelligence comes in forms that do not look like spreadsheets. Schools change their schedule to respect migration seasons, nesting periods, and hibernation cycles. Libraries include scent archives and vibration rooms. Sports evolve into cooperative games where the goal is coordination across bodies, not domination. Religion fractures and reforms as people confront a world where humans are no longer the sole audience of morality. Some faiths claim animals were always part of the covenant. Others collapse under the weight of doctrines built on supremacy. Art changes too. Music incorporates whale song with human harmonics. Architecture uses termite logic for natural cooling. Fashion moves away from leather not as trend, but as taboo. The world becomes quieter in one way and louder in another, because the chorus of voices expands beyond the human throat. Then comes the dark twist, because shared civilization reveals the truth humans avoided. Animals do not all want the same thing, and nature is not gentle. Predation does not vanish because translation exists. Wolves still need meat. Ox still hunt. Sharks still bite. The first time a wolf council demands guaranteed hunting rights near a human town, panic erupts. The first time a lion coalition rejects relocation and claims ancestral range that overlaps with farmland, governments wobble. The first time a pod of orcas declares a shipping lane illegal because it disrupts their culture, global trade stalls. Humans realize something uncomfortable. The old moral story was simple because humans wrote it alone. A shared civilization is complex because every species brings its own survival logic, and some logics conflict. The planet becomes a negotiation table where life itself is the stake, and no one can storm up because the ecosystem is not optional. Another turn tightens the tension: justice. If animals are citizens, what does punishment mean? You cannot imprison a migratory bird. You cannot fine a bear with money. You cannot lecture a crocodile into empathy for a prey animal. The legal system evolves into something new: restorative territories, behavioral treaties, interspecies mediation, and a hierarchy of necessity where harm is evaluated by context. Predators gain protected zones where hunting is legal and respected, while humans redesign agriculture away from killing, leaning into plant proteins, cultured foods, and land sharing that reduces conflict. It is not utopia. It is management of reality with ethics strapped on like safety gear. And that is when the civilization begins to succeed. Not because everyone becomes kind, but because everyone becomes accountable. The next turn is a global environmental reversal, because when animals have representation, habitat destruction becomes political suicide. Forests are no longer seen as timber. They are constituencies. Rivers become legal persons with aquatic allies voting for their health. Migration routes become protected highways. Urban planning builds sky bridges for monkeys, tunnels for amphibians, quiet zones for birds. The planet starts healing not as charity, but as governance. Disease surveillance improves through interspecies cooperation, because bats, birds, and rodents sense shifts long before humans do, and now their warnings get listened to instead of ignored. Disasters become easier to predict because animal behavior is treated as data with meaning, not superstition. The world grows safer while also feeling wilder, because safety is no longer achieved by sterilizing nature, but by partnering with it. Then the final turn arrives, reflective and cold, because the greatest change is not laws or technology, it is identity. Humans spent thousands of years believing civilization meant separating from animals, building walls, claiming mastery, and calling everything outside the walls chaos. In this world, civilization becomes the opposite. the skill of living inside the web without tearing it. The aha lands with quiet weight. The real question is not whether humans and animals could build a civilization together. It is whether humans can survive emotionally without being on top. Because shared civilization forces a species to grow up. It forces humans to accept limits. It forces humans to stop confusing intelligence with similarity and stop confusing dominance with destiny. And it reveals the simplest, most unsettling truth. The world was never ours to begin with. We were just the first ones to write the rules in a language only we could read. If you want more cinematic what-if stories that expand reality and then twist it until it says something sharp about us, like and subscribe and comment what you want next. If animals were full citizens tomorrow, which species would you trust to lead and which would you fear having equal power with?